Shocking murder in the streets of New York City. UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson was in New York for a big investor meeting. The meeting was scheduled to begin at 8 a.m. at the Hilton Hotel. Thompson was staying across the street at a different hotel, and at about 6:45, he left his hotel and crossed the street. That's when the suspect approached him from behind, shooting him 3 times and killing him. The shooter had arrived at the scene about 5 minutes before Thompson. Then after the shooting, he took off across the street and jumped onto an e-bike to escape. This prompted a massive manhunt by the NYPD, executing search warrants and trying to track down a killer. Tonight, we are live from New York with all the latest as we break down all the evidence, all the leads in the UnitedHealthcare CEO murder mystery. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. It's the biggest mystery right now that investigators are trying to figure out. It's the case everyone's talking about. A CEO is murdered. CEO of an incredibly large company, UnitedHealthcare. Millions and millions of people have UnitedHealthcare. They are worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. The man who was murdered making $10 million a year. In New York for an investor meeting, shot and killed in cold blood by seemingly someone who was lying in wait, someone who knew his schedule and knew he would be there and was there for a purpose. The manhunt continues for this shooter. Caught on video doing it, like there's surveillance videos everywhere in New York City. So he's going to be caught at different places at different times. $10,000 reward for information leading to an arrest of this killer. Some huge, big developments today in all of this. That's what we're going to go through this hour in terms of the evidence and what we're learning moment by moment, what's being reported, what's being confirmed, what's being released. It's one of those stories, one of those cases where you've got to hold on to your cell phone as information is coming out minute by minute in all of this. But the biggest question tonight that everyone is asking is, who is he? Who is this man? Who is this alleged killer? Now, what you see right here, new images of the suspect were released late this afternoon. Let's take a look at him. These apparently are before pictures, I believe. That's still not 100% clear, but this is at the High New York City hostel where they believe the suspect was staying, and apparently at one point smiling. These are images of the same man in the same hostel released by the NYPD because they say this is the person of interest. The person of interest, not a picture of 2 different people. 2 pictures, 1 person apparently taken as screen grabs from surveillance video at the High New York City hostel, which is really some of the brand new information that was revealed today. Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft joins us live from that hostel in the Upper West Side of Manhattan tonight. Kelly, great to see you on the ground. What can you tell us about this hostel, where you are? Is anything happening today? What are folks saying?
Well, hey there, Vinny. Yes, so we're right outside this hostel. We're at Amsterdam and 103rd. Behind me is this hostel, and it's very New York. People are coming and going. We just got a chance to talk with a group of girls. They are staying here. They're in from Australia. They were wondering what all the attention is about because there's a lot of media professionals outside here today because this is where the investigation is now focusing, because what investigators are saying is that they believe the suspect stayed here. So inside there are dorm-style rooms. The rates, we took a look at what the rates are. It's not exactly cheap to stay here. We looked at some rates. They were around $124, and that's for a dorm-style room. So a lot of these new images that have been released of the suspect being unmasked came from inside this hostel. We had our producer, Emanuela. She went inside to kind of take a look around, and she said it's very secure inside. You need a pass or one of those cards to kind of get through a lot of the layers of security. So it is very secure inside, but this is where they are focusing a lot of their investigation on now, Vinny, because this is where they say he stayed here on the Upper West Side, and then he hopped on the subway. So that's what police are saying, that he hopped on the subway and then went down to Midtown Manhattan to that Hilton hotel. First, he made a stop at that Starbucks and then went to that Midtown Hilton hotel, Hilton in Midtown Manhattan, and then that's when the shooting occurred.
All right, let's take a look at a map. We have a map, give people some perspective here of what we're talking about here in Manhattan. We begin at the New York Hilton Midtown. As you mentioned, that's the site of the shooting, of the murder, of the assassination. And let's take a look at where the hostel is located, relevant to this. So you go from 6th Avenue up to Amsterdam Avenue, and that's where the hostel is. And the distance between the two, about 3.2 miles. But as Kelly's reporting, 3.2 miles, and taking the subway is the way they believe he traveled. Now, the suspect apparently booked space on November 30th with a fake New Jersey ID at the hostel. These images, we believe, were taken about 5 a.m. So these are before pictures, before the murder pictures. On your left, on your right, again, would also be before, but that's from the Starbucks on the right. And the shooter reportedly wore a mask most of the time at the hostel. So here we've got the two images. On the left from the hostel, from the right from the Starbucks. On the right is the first one that was revealed. Private investigator, more than 20 years experience, Jason Jensen, also joining us tonight in our conversation. As we take a look at those pictures side by side, Jason, your thoughts about because a lot of people take a look at this online, other places are saying, oh, two different people, different outfits, everything else. Obviously, the coloring in a video can change drastically, but what are your thoughts as you look at the initial photo on the right and the one on the left that was revealed today?
Well, really what we're seeing is as he gets closer to the scene of the crime, he's going more and more covert. Now he's wearing the mask while he's at the Starbucks because he knows that with the elaborate surveillance system throughout the city of New York, you're going to want to conceal yourself because law enforcement will trace your pathway from some camera to the next camera as you're going through Manhattan. So as he gets closer to the scene of the crime, he's concealing his identity by wearing the mask. He's, hands in his pockets, doing what he can to be more discreet.
Something else people are talking about when it comes to the images side by side, different colored jacket, no backpack. The man in black may have wider shoulders. I think all of that is camera angles. I'm seeing the same jacket in both. There's certain little items on the jackets that look similar to me. I just think the video is grabbed, different cameras, different lighting, different settings perhaps on the video. You can see that his face is even a different color. It's more reddish, which tells you the color is different in the one on the right than the one on the left. That's my own analysis, having worked in television for all these years. What I want to do right here, because Kelly, I know you were all over Manhattan today, sort of retracing a lot of the steps today. So I want to show folks some of the things that you uncovered today. And let's begin. We begin at the Starbucks that we saw where that photo was taken on the right. That's where the Starbucks is. We have some video of the Starbucks so you get an idea of what we're talking about. People were wondering about the Starbucks. Let's take a look at it. Do we have the video? Oh, that's the video we have? Here we go. There's the Starbucks. There's one on every corner in Manhattan, but this apparently is the one that he was at just before all of this happened. Let's take a look at Kelly, who was there earlier today, giving us a little more insight and perspective.
Police say the suspect may have left his hostel on the Upper West Side, coming here, riding the subway to the 57th Street Station F. Sometime after getting off the subway, police say the suspect came here to this Starbucks. Surveillance video obtained by the Washington Post shows the suspect buying bottled water and 2 power bars. This was before the shooting.
And significance with that bottle of water and that wrapper, Kelly, I mean, that's something that's now being tested for DNA, is my understanding.
Yeah, it definitely is. They have said that this is extremely important forensic evidence that they are going to be able to use to possibly identify the suspect, Vinny. And so there's been a lot of talk initially that maybe this was someone who was really trained, because they had seen the gunman go up behind Brian Thompson, and then the gun gets jammed, and then he's able to quickly fix it, so he's able to shoot it again and shoot him then in the back as well as the calf. And so what they're saying is that someone who's left some of these things behind, like the bottle of water as well as the 2 wrappers, that it necessarily wouldn't be a trained gunman, a trained assassin, because they wouldn't have done made some of those mistakes. So this is going to be very important in their investigation.
Absolutely. All right, let's get back to the travels of the suspect. Travels to the Hilton Hotel, and that's where he's lying in wait for Brian Thompson to exit his hotel, cross the street to go inside of the Hilton where the meeting was. Let's take a look at Kelly at the scene of where all this happened.
We are outside the New York Hilton in Midtown. Police say that Brian Thompson, he was coming into this hotel for a conference, an investor conference, but 5 minutes prior, police are saying that the suspect, the man who gunned him down, was standing right out here on this very sidewalk. He was waiting for his target, and then he spotted him. He began to follow him. He got behind him, got about 20 feet from him, and then opened fire, shooting him in the back. Then he got closer and shot him in the calf. Police say after the shooting, the suspect fled on foot, coming through this alleyway between 54th and 55th, and then turning right onto 6th Avenue.
Kelly, as you go down that alleyway, how would you describe that alleyway?
It's wide, Vinny. You know, when you think about alleys, that's the word that police had used to describe it, an alleyway. It's very wide, so it's more like this pavilion, building on this side, a building on that side. At first, when I first started hearing about the reports, I was picturing like a very narrow alley, but no, I mean, it's a pretty wide alley, and then he gets through it and turns right, and that's when the reports indicate that he eventually got on that e-bike. Another thing I want to mention, when you're at that Hilton, there are so many different ways you can enter and exit, and so for him to know which place that Brian Thompson, which entrance he was going to go into, is pretty remarkable, to say the least, because, I mean, you're very familiar, Vinny, with New York City, and the streets are long, and so then you're on the Avenue of the Americas, and that's in front. You can go into the front entrance, and then there's another entrance right here on the side. Then there's some other entrances, so he knew which one he was going to go into.
You know, Jason, when you think about what Kelly's pointing out here, the fact that, number one, the timing of it, right? He's at Starbucks and then shows up about 5 minutes before Brian Thompson crosses the street, almost as if he had some inside information or just good intuition that the CEO is going to go to the meeting an hour and 15 minutes ahead of time.
Yes, that's remarkable, Vinny, because I do a lot of surveillance, including hotels. So it's always, you know, a concern that I have, which doorway are they going to go in? At what time are they going to show up? Are they already here? Did they have a room? So it seems like this guy has some promptings. You know, like when I do surveillance, I oftentimes have GPS, or I have an insider telling me, hey, I just got off the phone, he's on his way. So it really looks like he's got someone else cueing him, what he's wearing, which way he's going to proceed, maybe even what entrance he's going to go in. For him to be there 5 minutes before is really uncanny.
Okay, now, as Kelly just explained about the suspect fleeing the scene, traveling through that alleyway to West 55th and then back to 6th Avenue, and that's where authorities found a cell phone that they believe is crucial evidence that they're going through. Next, the suspect travels down 6th Avenue and jumps onto what we're not sure. It might be an electric city bike. Now we're hearing it might not have been one of those city bikes. But then we do know this video, which is about 6:59, coming out of the park, going down the street. We believe that is, in fact, the suspect on a bike leaving. Now, that may or may not be a city bike. Again, that's another issue that it looks like they're pulling back their initial reporting on that. Now, Kelly took a look at the electric bikes and how they work if, in fact, the suspect used one of those city bikes.
Now, police say the suspect rode away on a city bike. It's not clear if he picked up the bike from a docking station like this one, or if he had the bike positioned somewhere else ready to go. What we do know is that when he got on the city bike, he fled north on 6th Avenue and went into Central Park. These city bikes are pretty simple to use. You find them all over, these e-bikes, all over major metropolitan areas. You just take your phone, you get an account, and then you scan, do a few clicks, and then you're ready to go.
This was the part that I think a lot of people were scratching their heads, Kelly, because the city bikes, GPS, there's records, there's transactions, all of that. But if he's not from town, he's got to get a bike somewhere.
Yeah, and these e-bikes, as you were just mentioning, they are all over the place. I became familiar with them when I was out in Boise covering the Daybell trial, and I began to use them out there because they're such a great way to get around. And that was in Boise. Here in New York, they're a really great way to get around. So I know some initial reports were saying that he went and used one of these city bikes, but then now that's becoming a little bit less clear, because if you want to get one of those city bikes, you have to have an account, you have to download the app, and then you have to do some scanning, and then the bike unlocks. Because if you don't unlock the bike through your phone, it's not going to move. You can't move those things. They're so heavy. So you have to do that in order for it to start. So it wasn't clear to us if he had gotten it from a docking station or if it was already set up by somebody else, or it was just sitting there, because if someone hadn't closed out their account, maybe he could have grabbed it. But again, now we're not so certain it was one of those city bikes, Vinny.
Yeah. All right, Jason Jensen, where does that leave us then? If he's from out of town, right? If he's from out of town, you come to New York City, are we looking for someone that bought a bike? I'm trying to understand, because this is meticulously planned, like the timing and everything. He gets away in a certain way. He's able to jump onto a bike right after committing cold-blooded murder in the streets of New York. So there's planning to this. What are your thoughts about the bike if it's not one of these city bikes?
Well, what I'm thinking, Benny, is because there was a phone recovered that they're doing forensics on, I'm wondering if he used a burner phone in order to get one of these electric bikes, and then he ditched the phone because he doesn't want to be tracked with it subsequently, and then he's making his getaway. Because, traveling in New York is very problematic. You're not going to getting around on a bike would be a lot faster than trying to hail a cab or an Uber.
Right. And then and Kelly, I want to emphasize again what you said off the top here was that what investigators are saying, to get down to this area of New York, 3 miles away from the hostel, he took the subway, correct?
Yeah, Vinny. So we drove over here from where we were at the Hilton, and you know how traffic is in New York City. It took us forever to get over here, but it's pretty easy here. So take a look. This is the entrance to the hostel. So if you come out right here, and there are several subway stations right along here, so he could easily have just walked right down the street here, hopped on the subway, and you'd have to do a transfer too, but basically 10 minutes, and he's right there at that Starbucks. So you come right up those steps from the subway, you're right at that Starbucks, and then it's about a minute walk over to the Hilton.
Okay, Jason Jensen, where's he getting a bike from if it's not a city bike? Like, it's early in the morning, you're jumping on the subway, you're going down to Midtown, right? You get out of the subway, you come up, you're in New York, it's, 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning. Where are you getting this bike from if it's not a city bike? That part is a little confusing to me.
Well, we know that he ran away from the Hilton on foot, so he went down the alleyway. If he happened to come across a bike that was propped against the door while somebody left unattended for a moment, then it's just a getaway by opportunity on the bike. So that would be the only other explanation, because other than that, he would just remain on foot until he either made his way back to the subway or headed into another building.
All right. To me, that's the city bike made sense to a certain extent that you could rely on it being there because there's so many of them. Now, at 6:48, just 4 minutes after the shooting, the suspect enters Central Park and then rides down Center Drive. And that's sort of the escape route. And that video we've been seeing, I believe, is on the other side of Central Park after he exits Central Park. Wow, a lot to go through, a lot to get to. All right, Kelly Craft and Jason Jensen are going to stay with us. We're going to talk more about everything we're learning tonight. The manhunt continues in Manhattan. We'll talk about that, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, the unsolved murder of John Benet Ramsey. Now, after a big Netflix series, the local police believe it will be solved. John Benet's father, John, joins us live as we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
It's the biggest story that we're covering.
He is the boogeyman.
Lori Daybell.
She said, I will have you destroyed.
She's got another murder trial coming up.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
I want to be clear. At this time, every indication is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack.
That is clear. This was targeted. I mean, this is not random. There was no other motive like robbery or just someone who's out of control. No, this person was very focused on what they were doing. There for a purpose, and it was to take the life of the UnitedHealthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. Still with us, Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft, who is in New York City, has been all over Manhattan today. Jason Jensen, private investigator, more than 20 years experience, still with us. Jason, let me ask you this question, and I think this is a big picture one, because we don't know the motivation yet, but a lot of people are looking at the motivation being perhaps someone who had a bad experience with UnitedHealthcare themselves, or perhaps a loved one. I'm thinking it could also potentially be some sort of an activist that, is going after the big CEO of the evil corporation, et cetera. I get all that. But what are your thoughts about how this was carried out? Was this how well planned, and what level of experience do you think this person had in terms of carrying out a crime like this? Does it look like a first timer? Does it look like someone who's living a normal life to a certain extent, has some horrible tragedy in their life, has this bad experience, and then gets this idea in their head that they're going to carry out this assassination?
Yeah, from all that I've noticed, it doesn't seem like he's like a professional trained killer where he's done this before, like a trained assassin. But what I do see is somebody that is familiar with a handgun. For instance, he has a suppressor on this handgun, whether, a suppressor is another name for a silencer, and there's only so many states that make that available. So I believe, given the fact that this is somebody that had a fake New Jersey ID, and that there seemed to be an grievance against him or UnitedHealthcare, wherein I believe that because he's handwriting on bullets, it reminds me back in the days when I'm a war veteran. So we would hear stories about how soldiers would write messages on their rounds to the enemy. And here what we have one that says deny, we have one that says defend, one that says depose. These are litigation terms. So I think it's something that has to do with some kind of litigation that went very wrong in this attacker's mind, or whoever hired him per se. But it was very planned, very organized to get him there, where he was there within 5 minutes. But then the getaway, you're just going to go your quickest route away. I don't think it was a planned getaway, but he certainly was resourceful to get away because he hasn't been caught yet.
Kelly, let me ask you, we cover stories and tragedies like this and crimes like this all around the country. If this was a small town, I know this would be the only thing everyone was talking about. You're bouncing around Manhattan today to all the locations associated with this crime. What's the vibe that you're getting in the city? Is it like New York and it's just another day in New York and people aren't necessarily cognizant of all of this? Or is it something that you notice this has sort of gripped the city of New York?
Okay, a few things, Vinny, because that's a great question. It really is business as usual in New York. But that being said, people are talking about it. So when we got up here today, I flew up from South Carolina, from Myrtle Beach, because we were down there covering another story. So when I was checking into the hotel, the woman next to me brought it up to the front desk person. And the front desk person was like, it's just another typical day around here in New York. She just kind of dismissed it, but the woman who was checking in really wanted to talk about it. Another woman at another store that I went to just to get some supplies and stuff for us, our arrival here in New York, she definitely wanted to talk about it. And she said at first, when they first started hearing about it, it was very frightening. But then when police came out and started saying that it was a targeted attack, she said everyone's fears everyone just kind of calmed down about it. But yeah, some people are talking about it. Other people, there's always so many tourists here. It's the holiday season. People are out shopping and enjoying themselves. But then when they see us, of course, they want to know what's going on, and especially when we were outside the Hilton and then here at the hostel as well.
So Brian Thompson was staying across the street from the Hilton, and I haven't heard much about what that is like. Is it, because I was wondering if the whole thing is happening at the Hilton, why was he not staying at the Hilton? He was staying across the street. What did you notice when you went there about that particular area of where this crime took place?
Well, that's a good question too, Vinny, but sometimes, when you go on these conferences, you may not want to stay at the exact same hotel that every single person is going to be at. So you have the Hilton, and then really close, right next door, it could take you 30 seconds, there's the hotel that they believe that he was staying at. It's right across the street. So really it could take 15 seconds to walk to. So very close. So it's very possible he just wanted to stay there. We don't really know, but maybe didn't want to stay where everyone else was staying, or maybe his group, his particular group, the executive group, was staying there at the same hotel that he was at.
All right, Jason Jensen, let's talk about how would this shooter even know that? How would the suspect even know that the CEO is having a conference at the New York Hilton, but isn't going to stay at the New York Hilton? That he's going to be walking outside, not like driven by a limo and dropped off right in front, but actually walking. Like, how could he get that level of knowledge?
Yeah, unless someone's feeding him intel, that's a high, unlikely probability that he's going to run into somebody on the streets of New York as they're about to enter a hotel. Because, just like what we're discussing, oftentimes you stay in the hotel where a conference is being held. So unless he's got like a membership at a neighboring hotel where he gets discounts or special treatment or points, there's really no reason to stay anywhere else. So unless he knew that he was going to run into him any minute now, if he was planning to be there all day and it was just a stroke of luck that it happened within 5 minutes of his arrival, that's all we really have to go on.
Because I'm just thinking about it. You are the CEO of UnitedHealthcare. You could stay anywhere. You could stay at the nicest place in Manhattan, get the limo to drop you off right in front, and the limo driver's got to open the door for you, and then you're right inside. But this guy's got to cross the street, and he's got to walk down the street, much more vulnerable. Unbelievable. All right, Kelly Craft, great work as always. Thank you so much. But if you hear anything, let us know. We'll put you right back on the air. Jason Jensen, awesome. I know we're going to speak a little bit later in our second hour. Don't go anywhere, folks. When we come back, we're going to talk about the murder weapon, the gun.
We're following breaking news out of New York City as police are searching for a gunman.
He ignores numerous other pedestrians approaches the victim from behind and shoots him in the back.
This is the moment that the first shot is fired into his back.
It seems to be someone who would have been lying in wait, so they could have been in just regular clothes. They might be an assassin. Who knows?
Obviously, it was intentional, it was premeditated, it was planned.
No doubt. Now, surveillance video of the shooting was posted to X by General MC News. Now, I'm going to warn you, like I do every time I show it to you. This is difficult to watch. This is the actual crime. Let's take a look. There's Brian Thompson. There's the killer. The first shot is fired right there. He then stumbles, but you see there's some issues going on here with the gun at this point as the shooter continues to approach the victim, fires again and again, and then passes the victim. It's blurred off to the right, and then quickly makes his way across the street, goes into a bit of a trot here. So to me, a big part of this is the weapon itself and the person holding the weapon. So joining me tonight, gun expert, former Department of Homeland Security Special Agent Supervisor, host of the Protectors podcast, Dr. Jason Piccolo. Jason, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's go through this. We just watched the video. I don't want to keep showing it over and over again, so I have some still frames from it I want to show folks. Let's take a look at the first one. And this is 3 live 9mm rounds and 3 discharge casings were found in this case. The gun apparently jams, but as you looked at it, why did it jam, and what does that tell you about the killer?
The gun will jam if it doesn't have enough powder pushing the bullet out of it. So I'm going to show you what a 9mm bullet looks like. You can see that right there. The top is the bullet part. The middle is the casing. That's where the inscription was on. But in that casing is gunpowder. If there's not enough to push that projectile through a suppressor, then the gun will jam. Now, it didn't jam completely. He did do function. He changed a malfunction, and he was able to chamber another round and fire. So he does know how to clear a weapon.
So what does that what does it take to know how to clear a weapon? Like, how much experience does it take? Is this something that a novice would know? Is this something that you learn when you're getting training? Is it something you can learn on a YouTube video?
You can learn it on a YouTube video, but you do need training in order to actually effectively do it. It takes a lot of muscle memory to do it. He did a lot of types of techniques I would do as a law enforcement. I would tap it, and I would rack it, and I would reassess the target. But the way he did later on, as he slapped the side of the weapon, I don't believe he actually had a solid base of training. He did have some training, though, absolutely.
Okay, now, let's talk about this suppressor or silencer as we look at the gun. What do you notice about it? How difficult are they to get, and why would you use one, and why would you potentially need one if you're going to be this type of an assassin first thing in the morning in New York City?
Well, first thing in the morning, I was actually there in that same area yesterday morning, and no, I'm not associated with this assassin. But you would use a suppressor because if you discharged a regular firearm within those those confines of the alleyways there and the roads there, it would set off an echo, and that echo would bring police there. Now, there is I think they call it a shot spotter or something along those lines in New York, some areas of New York, so it will recognize gunfire. So you would use a suppressor to dampen the sound of that bullet coming out of the firearm, so you don't bring attention to yourself.
And is that something that you purchase? Is that something that you can create yourself? And again, what level of expertise is necessary to know how to use one?
You can purchase a suppressor, but it's a lengthy process, and it's actually shortened now to go through the ATF. You could purchase it illegally and do that, and that's what I would assume this would happen like this way, because there are records of so many suppressors out there. It would narrow down the focus on who this was. But I believe it was probably purchased illegally, and they're really not that crazy hard to get if you are a criminal.
Now, another big piece of evidence that we learned today is that the killer apparently wrote inscriptions on the casings: deny, defend, and depose, with a Sharpie marker. What are your thoughts about that? And does that have any impact on the ammunition? And what's your general thoughts about the killer actually writing these words in there? And a lot of people obviously are talking about the book, Delay, Deny, Defend, and the term that is kind of thrown around in the insurance business as a modus operandi to try to not fulfill claims.
Now, I don't know if the inscriptions were on the live ammo that was ejected from there, but I would like to see all of the shell casings. Let's say that firearm there probably holds 15 to 17 rounds, whereas every round on are inscribed with the same sayings, or were there more on the other ones that maybe the gunpowder burned off when the firearm was, when it was fired. So the thing is, did he inscribe all of them, or was it just the same 3 words over and over again?
And apparently it's on the casing, so what does that tell you?
Well, the casing, you can put the inscription on it. It's no problem at all there. But I would imagine that if you fired the rounds that were fired off and the casing came out, it may have burned off some of the inscription, and the inscription was probably on a lot of the live rounds.
All right, hold up that casing one more time so we can kind of get an idea of the size. So you could fit all 3 words on each one, and that's what's not clear necessarily tonight. So the entire part that we're looking at right now is the casing?
The casing, well, this is a full bullet. So the top part is the bullet portion of it, and that long, chromish looking is the casing itself.
Excellent. All right, Dr. Jason Piccolo, appreciate your time, and we'll be speaking again soon, I am sure. All right, folks, we got a lot more to get to. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know, you need to see tonight. Plus, coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, the biggest unsolved true crime case in the nation, the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. Can this case be solved? JonBenet's father, John, joins us live as we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
It's the biggest story that we're covering.
He is the boogeyman.
Lori Daybell.
She said, I will have you destroyed.
She's got another murder trial coming up.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look. Melody Farris from the Burn Pile murder trial sentenced to life with parole. What a day inside that courtroom. Melody Farris, very, very emotional. But this was a sentencing unlike any sentencing you have ever seen, folks, because Chris and Scott and Emily, their 3 children, testified against her during the trial. And Scott was in court today, Melody in court, and Melody going after her son. Take a listen.
On July the 5th, 2018, 6 years, 5 months ago today, began the worst nightmare that I could have ever imagined. Not only my world, but my family's world was absolutely destroyed at the hands of one person. I want to make sure that my children, my grandchildren, and Gary's family, and to be honest, at this point in time, the entire world who has viewed this. I have waited for years to make this statement to everyone. I want the world to know who did this. I have always heard that the courtroom is the last place you're going to get the truth. And has that ever been proven to be the truth in this case? Not only did I not do this, I know who did. I know Scott killed his father. He took my husband, the father of Chris, Emily, and Amanda. He took Big Daddy from our grandchildren, Scott. This is unforgivable. Scott has spent an entire life of loving and protecting you, but this I refuse to cover for you. My mother your mom, begged me to take the blame for this. She said after she talked to you, after Gary died, that she knew you had done it. Her exact words were, "You are his mother. You have to take blame for this." And I told her no, that I couldn't. I still have 3 other children, grandchildren, and this is not a stolen credit card, a check, or a diamond ring that you've pawned, all of which you have done. I saw you coming from that burn pile the morning of July the 5th in your truck, Scott. I saw Gary going to that barn the night of July the 3rd, right after you got home. And then Scott is going, and I thought then Scott's going to be in trouble for staying at the lake and playing golf all the time. Never in a million years did I ever think that this nightmare was starting then. Scott's anger issues have all been a huge issue. When he was in kindergarten and elementary school, Chris would...
I'm objecting. At this point, she's dragging Scott through the mud and his character. This is not.
All right, Ms. Farris, I'm going to cut you off if you keep just wanting to resuscitate facts that aren't before the court.
Judge Cannon, I'm begging for justice for Gary, for my children, for my grandchildren, for Gary's family. And I am begging that you throw out this verdict. Be the 13th juror. Help us get justice. I did not do this. I promise you on my life. The 18 months that I did in Cherokee County was nothing compared to the last month that I spent in there. Now I know that Cherokee County did not do their job in the investigation. They took Scott's story and ran with it. I know that in my heart, body, and soul, who did this. And I'm begging for help. I'm begging you, Judge Cannon. Please do not send me to prison for something I didn't do. I did not do this. If I had done this, I would take this charge gladly. If it would bring Gary back, I would gladly go to prison. I do not want to wait years for an appeal. I've waited 6 years and 5 months for justice already, but here we are. Maybe I should have testified, but I listened to legal counsel. I wanted the truth out there, and this is why I am making this statement. I do not want to wait years for justice, years that I may not have. I know this is something that you may never have seen before, and I plead with you to roll this verdict out. Help me get justice for the correct person. As bad as it sounds, I want to be there to watch him chained and shackled and brought to justice. I plead with you. This is something that I will never recover from. I don't know that my family will ever recover from. Please help me. I'm begging you to restore my faith in the judicial system. I'm begging you, not for me, but for Gary and my children and my grandchildren.
All right.
Wow. Pointing the finger at your son during the sentencing. You want to see him shackled? Well, you had an opportunity to testify. You could have told your story. You could have told police right after Gary was murdered, but she didn't. All right. Take a look at your screens, folks. We have a missing child who needs your help. This is Darius Martin Gonzalez. Darius is just 15 years old, missing out of Spring, Texas. If you see Darius, pick up the phone, make the call, make a difference. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Conroe ISD, that's the School District Police Department in Spring, in Conroe, Texas. That number's on your screen. Let's see if we can get Darius to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We've got another hour of live true crime. We're going to take a look at the JonBenet Ramsey case. JonBenet's father joining us live. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.